Welcome to tonight's show, everybody, with myself and Mr. Mark Llewellin. How are you?
I'm very good, and you?
I'm all right. I've received some news, though. Something very exciting has fully happened today.
Right,
Yes.
what is it?
Well, do you remember a few weeks ago, we thought we'd lost 2 people over Eagleton Edge?
No, I have no recollection of that whatsoever.
Well, yesterday I was watching a little programme called Long Lost Family.
Yes.
And it turns out that the both of them were on there. Michael Adams and Anne Michaels were both on there.
The twins?
The twins.
Yes.
They didn't go off Eagleton Edge. They jumped out the car as the car was going over. They fully brought back here, and look who's here. Come on, is that right?
Well,
Are you Adam
I was going to
Michaels?
say, it's probably Adam Michaels.
No,
we
nobody's
will
as
never know.
common as
We'll
Michael
never
Adams,
know.
is it? I tell you, I love it. How are you?
Pushed him over the cliff.
Did you?
Oh.
Did Cliff mind?
We better not go there.
I was on a summer holiday.
Oh. Very good, that.
I know.
Very good. How have you been?
I've
Let's
been
get to the
okay. I've
chase.
been very busy.
You've been very busy.
Everything's gone on. Everything that could have happened has happened.
Yes.
Now, we need
That there.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, you're
lovely to be back.
You are absolutely back on the right day because we've
Yeah.
got a marvellous show tonight, haven't we?
Absolutely fantastic.
What's on the show?
Well, I've been out taking a walk around the city centre, so it goes through the gay village and then down to the museum.
That's right. I've also been speaking to Mr. Joe Thomas. He's from the Inbetweeners, but that's not what we're talking to him about. We're talking to something far more important because it's about to be a marvellous, marvellous play.
Very mysterious.
It's very mysterious. And we've also got a few points to discuss as well, haven't we?
We have. It's going to be a sparky one.
Arena versus Arena.
Oh, I love that film.
I do too. And also, let us eat in peace. That's our topic today, everybody. Should we be left to go to these restaurants and dine in peace, or should we be heckled and heckled
And heckled again.
Take the pick.
and heckled by people pestering us while we try and eat with all these gimmicks?
I don't like being heckled over a plate of peas.
No.
Is this the time your show's looking?
Right. Well, while you pour some drinks and clear up, I've been taking a walk around the city centre, so it's the first of a new series where we explore some of the city's history. So we're starting a new series of rambles around the city centre, looking at some of the places you may just take for granted. And we're starting this one in Sackville Gardens, here in the middle of the gay village. And behind us are all these buildings that were built as schools and technical college, in fact designed by Sir Joseph Whitworth, hence Whitworth Street behind me. And Sackville Gardens opened as a park in the 1880s to give a view of people being educated. But Sackville Gardens is probably known for this gentleman here today, and that's Alan Turing, OBE. So Alan Turing was really the father of modern computers and had a tragic life. He was tortured really for his homosexuality. He was given all kinds of chemical treatments and eventually committed suicide at home in Wilmslow by taking a poisoned apple. And he's shown in this statue holding that very apple. The Rochdale Canal runs alongside Sackville Gardens, and then of course we have Canal Street, now very well known indeed and one of the big attractions in Manchester. Just down at the bottom is the Union and the Rembrandt. We know that in the 1940s they were having gay evenings. In fact, as late as 1965, the landlord of the Union was sent down for public decency charges, and they renamed the pub after that the New Union. At the top of Canal Street we turned into Chawton Street, where of course you know it for the coach station, hideous building. Got Matchstick Men on side of the 50s and 60s buildings there, and one of the finest buildings in the whole of Manchester city centre, what used to be the warehouse for the Watts Company. Each window is different as you work the way up the building, and they looked all around Europe for the different styles that they liked. So they've gone through from Italian, Elizabethan, right up to the very top where you've got the recreation of the rose windows from cathedrals in Paris. It was actually a warehouse for their company, which became Courtaulds later on, and on every floor you had a different type of product. So one floor was just ribbons, and people would come from all around the world to buy up the finest merchandise. Now we come on to Portland Street, which is lined by enormous Victorian and Edwardian buildings, mainly used as warehouses and showrooms. Stuck in the middle is this, the Circus Tavern, which claims to be the smallest bar in Europe. But they've not been to Bell's Bar, have they? Because that is tiny in comparison. But that's what the tourists come for, the Circus Tavern. Now we turned on to Princess Street, and just this little street, Faulkner Street, we can have a little sneaky peek into Chinatown. And a lovely archway there that takes us through to the centre. Red and gold, dragons and phoenix. All the symbols of good luck and prosperity. This is the Athenaeum building. It's now part of the art gallery, but it was originally built as a college for young men. It was an institute where they could come and discuss. They had lectures, they had a gymnasium, they had coffee shops. So it was about education, but in an informal setting. So we finish our walk on the corner of Princess Street and Mosley Street. And this is where the art gallery is. Absolutely worth a visit. Many floors of wonderful paintings and artworks. And this was designed by Sir Charles Barry, who would later design the Houses of Parliament. So if you fancy a walk, why not take the one we've just done?
Oh, there we are. Did you enjoy that?
I didn't know that you could walk.
Well, normally I have people who do it for me, but I made an exception for your Manchester. Right. Now for something completely different. Our Belinda is in the snug.
She's an actor, John Thomas.
Doobie-doo. And joining us now is Mr. Joe Thomas. Joe, tell us all about the show. It seems to be going from strength to strength. What is it all about, and why is it doing so well?
I think it's doing well because it's just very fun and funny, and like people just need a bit of a laugh at the moment. And it's a historical comedy. It's based on real life events, those being the theft of the crown jewels from the Tower of London in the 17th century. So it's a kind of caper, really. It's about this heist, this bunch of basically idiots led by this Irish bloke called Colonel Thomas Blood, and including his son and various other sort of chumps, basically, managed to get into the Tower of London, steal the crown jewels. This was during the reign of Charles II. And at that point, the crown jewels were basically in the Tower of London, guarded by one retired soldier. Literally one man was guarding these jewels. So these guys got in, stole the crown jewels, and nearly got away. It's not really about that. It's mainly just a very silly, funny, fun night out. I guess in the sort of Blackadder vein, that kind of thing. But it's basically, I think the reason it's doing well is just because it's really funny, and it's got lots of really, really good performers in it. Al Murray, Mel Godrich, Neil Morrissey.
Now, without dwelling on what you've kind of done in the past, where are you kind of at the moment? Are you preferring doing theatre? I mean, if you had to choose one or the other, theatre or television for you?
Well, they're so. I think, to be honest, there's a real kind of symbiotic relationship between them. I think most comedy performers tend to come out of a sort of live setting, and I think if you neglect the live side, you start to lose those instincts a bit. So I think it's always really good to kind of keep that up, and it's a very, very different challenge doing theatre. I mean, television you can kind of switch off for a lot of the time, and then you work in these very, very small fits and starts. Like you have to do like a 1 minute's work, almost literally. They'll say, camera's rolling, and you do your minute, and then it stops, and then you can just go back to your dressing room and sort of sit there for 4.5 hours. Whereas with theatre, it's like it's a long, sustained burst of concentration. It's a totally different thing. And when I first kind of came back to theatre, sort of a couple of years ago, I was really surprised because I realised I kind of lost that skill. I'd lost that ability to concentrate for that length of time, And so I kind of think both. You should do both. I think anyone who, particularly in comedy, I think you should always keep up the live stuff, because it's often where you started as well, and it's important to kind of go back and re-hone those instincts.
A lot of actors have a pre-show regime. Do you have anything in particular that you feel you have to do before you go on stage?
I don't know why, but I sometimes like to clean my teeth, which is ridiculous because they can't smell my breath from there. But I'm just like, I don't know why the audience, that's the one thing you definitely wouldn't have to do. But I don't know why. I think there's something I'm worried about that for some reason. And there was the last play I did, I liked to put on this certain aftershave because I thought it got me in character. So there's obviously something about smell. So I'm worried I smell before I go on. I don't know what that is, but I don't have any kind of nothing else really. I probably should warm up. I mean, lots of actors do kind of, ba 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 ba. All that is sort of like, and I sort of hear them doing it. And I'm like, I don't know whether but part of me thinks, is that useful? And then part of me thinks, should I be doing that? And then in the end, I just don't do it. So, but yeah, so a little bit, nothing too crazy.
Tell us about your part that you're playing in this, because it sounds like it's not your run-of-the-mill easy job to be doing. There's quite a lot of words within this very show, isn't there?
Oh, there are. I mean, it is. I mean, and also it's kind of written in this kind of restoration style. So it's, it's not modern dialogue as such. There's quite a lot of action as well. There's quite a lot of like swashbuckling, like sword fighting and stuff, and jumping around. And there's quite a lot of, because it is kind of it's about a robbery. So there's a lot of running away and sort of fighting and like stuff getting kind of thrown about and knocked over and like. So it's physically kind of quite a good, bit of exercise. My part is the son of I mentioned the Irish chap, Colonel Thomas Blood, who is the one who devises the scheme. He's the sort of Frank Ocean, I guess, of the whole thing. And I'm his son, Thomas Blood Jr. So they saved money on names there. They didn't have to come up with a same name. I am essentially a decent sort of chap who kind of goes along with it because he thinks it'll be easy, and he's not really particularly capable as a criminal, but he's got a sort of moral compass, and he I think in the end is kind of basically sort of redeemed a bit. He's not really a villain. He's somebody who kind of is hanging around with the wrong crowd, but it's a nice part to play because he does have, although it's a comedy, he does have an arc as such. He does have a journey where he kind of begins to sort of think for himself a little bit more as it goes along. So it's a part I enjoy. I'm getting a lot out of it, definitely.
Now, just before we let you go, why should people come and watch this show?
Basically, because it is just 2 hours of non-stop laughter. It's just a really, really funny, fun, silly show. It doesn't have anything particularly profound to say. It doesn't really have a particular axe to grind about anything. It's just a laugh. You've got Al Murray playing King Charles II, who's just fantastic, and is really just a whole new sort of stand-up character, essentially, that he's doing. And there's just a brilliant comic cast there to enjoy. So literally, it's just a really, really fun, silly night out that will just give you a break from all the nonsense that's going on in the world and just give you a little bit of a laugh, basically.
Well, how absolutely amazing was he? What a wonderful person.
Yes.
I am. It's going to be good, isn't it? We've got a few topics that I want to discuss today. And the first one has been bothering my head absolutely for a while now.
Mine too.
We've got an arena.
We are.
But we're getting another arena.
And I just don't think there's any need for it.
So how many will this new arena hold?
So we've currently got, of course, the MEN, or AO Arena, as it's called.
9X.
9X.
Has it changed?
Yes.
I think that's before my time. It currently has a capacity of 21,000.
Yeah.
Yes.
However, they've decided all of a sudden, not by the Etihad, they're going to build a co-op live arena. 23,500. So it's not even that much bigger. What's the point? What's the need?
I mean, we are going to have, in this case then, aren't we? We are going to have 40,000 people at any one night wandering the streets of Manchester. And I actually, since I've become a driver, feel sorry for the drivers because I think it's going to create unsurmountable problems for them.
Well, it is. If I'm going out the city centre, I have to go past it. It's bad enough with the city stadium when that's coming out anyway,
That's
isn't
the
it?
thing. I work at the Media City, when I'm travelling back in that direction, it's an absolute nightmare. If you're trying to get on the tram and there's a match on, so imagine what it's like to be a match on, and say something really big is forming at the core
Like your Manchester Live.
Well, exactly. But are they going to be bringing anything bigger, act-wise?
It doesn't seem that way.
Right. So,
However,
whoa,
Harry Styles is an investor.
is he?
Oh, is
He's
he?
probably the biggest name in pop at the moment, isn't he?
Yeah,
Yeah.
undoubtedly.
So I think you don't really seem a Harry Styles fan all that much.
I'm not really sure who he is, to be honest. But is he a singer? Is he?
He is.
Okay.
Former boy band fame. Boy band.
No, I like that. Yeah, very good.
very good.
Yeah.
But he's an investor, so maybe Harry might put on a big gig
Mark, yay or nay to 2 arenas?
Well, I think it's a nay, but I think it's a bit late now. We should have said this before they started building.
Well, I mean, they're not going to listen to us anyway, are they? But I mean, I always think that you got to have your say on these things. I think it's going to be a nightmare.
Yes.
So let's see what comes from it. We've got the Co-op versus the what?
Co-op Live Arena versus the AO Manchester Evening News, whatever you call it.
Well, I'll make a stand here and now.
Yes.
I'm not going to appear at either.
Oh.
Well, there you go. One place that we do like to appear, though, the 3 of us, is at restaurants.
We do.
Now, something is griping me, something offensively now. Honestly,
dear.
it is doing my head in. The last few restaurants I've been to, they all seem to want to throw upon you, literally, these immersive experiences. We went to Karen's a few months ago, a few weeks ago. Now, that was, you know, what can I say about that? You went to Karen's recently, didn't you?
Like week after, and I'm all like, at the end of the night, I think we were all a bit sick. So we got a bit of a brief off them when we went in, and they all just seemed very cold.
Yeah.
So I just felt like we potentially didn't get the full experience, but secondly as well, I just thought I was constantly on edge throughout the entire thing. You didn't want to look at people, you didn't want to breathe funny, because you thought they're going to pick you up on it. Then I saw yesterday our rivals this morning.
Well, we don't really think of them as rivals anymore.
No,
because unlike us, they're not winning awards.
Well, exactly. But this morning they had the cast of that Mamma Mia immersive dining.
I mean, could you cope? You go to a nice restaurant, the food's not particularly different or nice, it's just like a burger shack. Do you then think that you should have people carooning loudly in your ear and dancing around you? Takes me back to the times when I used to go to restaurants in Italy and France, and they'd always have like a violinist, and they feel the necessity to stand right next to you as you're tucking into your favourite nice food and play this blinking violin loudly in your
belly
ear.
dancing.
Or belly dancing.
Oh, no, thank you.
You'll not do that again.
Go to a restaurant, enjoy, be left alone, or go to a restaurant, enjoy and be pestered.
I think enjoy and be left alone.
Yeah, left alone, definitely.
I agree.
Well, I'm glad about that.
That's very good. Well, look at the time, everybody. That's us done.
Yes, I know.
And we've got another marvellous show coming up next week, as we call it in a minute. And yes,
We're going to be meeting we're going to be finding out a bit more about ourselves.
Well, let's do that then. In the meantime, make sure you tell your friends to subscribe to Manchester's #1 talk show. That is
Your
Manchester.